My friends, Russia is facing NATO now. They have been putting their warplanes in our airspace, and NATO nations are calling to shoot down the Migs. In fact, Poland and Estonia have said they will shoot down Russian Migs if they violate their airspace, any Russian aircraft, because Migs aren't the only ones that's been violating their airspace lately. And furthermore, Czech president said do it, and even the Brits have basically said they will do whatever to defend their airspace. My friends, we are in uncharted territories. We are at risk of war like we've never seen it. The risk for nuclear war I don't think they've ever been higher, except for maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis, but we are in dangerous times. We've not seen anything like this since. It's it's incalculable what we're looking at right now. So we're going to get all into this, my friends. I am going to show you this. We're on the verge of escalations in Venezuela. We're in verge of, look, things are happening in the Mid East. We've got China with Taiwan because the sea states there may be calm in about a week. Maybe this is why Russia has been doing what they're doing in Europe, violating NATO airspace with Migs, maybe in other aircraft, maybe in drones. Maybe this was intended to distract us. And we don't really have the wherewithal to fight China anyway. So, guys, buckle up. We are in for strange times. And on top of that, on top of all of that, economic malaise here at home and civil strife like we've never seen since the war between the states. The tensions are so high, and terrorist activities. We've still got to contend. General Flynn just came out with a post referencing the post that we talked about here a couple of nights ago, where ISIS and Al Qaeda are calling for strikes throughout the Western world, particularly here in the United States and in Britain. So, my friends, if you don't think we're living in dangerous times, your head is in the sand. If ignorance is bliss, you got to be one happy puppy. Well, my friends, sometimes bliss is taking care of your own. Sometimes bliss is watching out for your six. All right, guys, let's just get into some of these articles because it's off the charts right now, what we're facing. I'm going to go straight to it. All right. Well, that didn't work. All right, there we are. Thought for a minute I wasn't sharing the right screen. So here we are, my friends. Seriously, Poland vows to shoot down Russian aircraft. And this is coming from Tusk, the head of Poland over there. So, my friends, he says he's a prime minister, there is no room for debate here. He's not kidding. They're serious. They're prepared to shoot down Russian aircraft, including manned Migs. If that don't get us sliding into World War III, you tell me what will. Because guys, now we got these militaries all next to each other, all hyped up on tensions, and we've got incursions going on. Just what they're saying they're going to shoot stuff down for. My friends, all it takes, even if they don't mean it, the slightest little miscalculation can start a tit for tat that escalate into a quick feud and all the way to World War III. And will it go nuclear? My friends, depends on how far each side pushes it. It depends on how the feud escalates. We don't know. This is uncharted territory. Of course, we're turning over a lot of control of our weapon systems to AI, thanks to Palantir, Skynet. Of course, the simulations run by AI, they always escalated all the way to World War III and nukes. Of course, what's AI got to lose? It's not even alive. It's not even conscious. I can go into that more in the future. I've discussed it in the past. But guys, intelligence without a moral compass, without empathy, is psychopathy at worst. Sociopathy at best. But AI don't even have an intention. It's got no real intelligence. I can talk about this in the future, but that don't mean we don't have something to be concerned about. I'm not really worried about the AI. I'm worried about the people. Look what they're saying. They are ready to shoot them down, and we're right behind them. NATO ready to use force against Russia, Estonia says after airspace incursion. And here is the Czech president tells NATO to shoot down Russian jets. Do it. Well, they already just said they will do it. You see, we have never seen anything like this. Never. Are they about to set up a no-fly zone over Ukraine just for giggles? Well, that's what Boris Johnson over British UK would like. Fortunately, he's not in power now. But how widely is that sympathy held over there? Britain, speaking of them, Britain will confront Russian fighter jets. They said they'll do whatever it means to defend their airspace, whatever that means. It sounds like they're fully on board. Oh, yeah. Then you add to that. What happened? Well, these three Russian jets that flew into Latvian airspace, they were like 12 minutes. Transponders off. They would not, they were being signaled. They had jets from them. They would not respond. Not respond at all. So that's why the tensions are up so high. That's, they didn't say, okay, we messed up or nothing. They didn't say nothing. They didn't say jump in a lake. They didn't say jack diddle. And that's so European nerves are frayed seriously here, apparently, to the point at least they're talking about shooting down nukes. I mean, shooting down Migs and whatever aircraft, yeah, maybe nukes, aircraft that come over. Yikes. And of course, I mentioned this, Trump has pledged to support Poland, NATO nations, the Baltics. If he's already said, hey, we're there. For all of us that's been asking us to pull out, Trump is backing them. So even when Trump is president, we could wind up in World War III with Russia. Not what we expect, but that is where this could go. Of course, China is trying to take down they're on economic warfare with us, trying to take down our dollar. Those bio drugs. So look at the price of gold. Look at the price of gold. It has shot up and just keeps going up. It's been climbing like a F-15 strap. I've seen F-15s launching these strap. I worked on them once upon a time. $3,755.91 per troy ounce. Wow, guys. And I don't know. Don't look like there's any ceiling in sight. Now, we don't know. All these things can go one way or the other. But holy smoke, guys. Oh, yeah, here's Defy the Grid telling you if you find a better price somewhere else, they'll meet it or beat it. DefyTheGrid.com. You might want to think about it. The economy is not getting any better. Our dollar is not getting any stronger. Now, past performance does not indicate future performance. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'll give you the disqualifiers. But, a lot of people are obviously looking hard at this and buying because the price is going up. And once you see a little price up like this, it might dip down a little bit. Again, if it does, buy. Well, I ain't gonna tell you to buy or not buy. You got to judge for yourself. But something to think about. Silver is going up. They're all going up. Silver, copper, you name it. Here, but you go to defythegrid.com. You can buy the bars, the bullion, the coins, rounds, silver notes. And of course, my favorite is the gold bat because it's a fungible amount of gold. You can come in different denominations, different sizes are denominated in 1,000th a troy ounce of gold. You can see a 50 note on there. And this is a 1 note. So, yeah, you can buy bread and eggs and you can barter with them to get stuff like bread and eggs, whatever, smaller stuff because it's a smaller amount and it's easy to handle. Like I got that in my wallet right now. And just like a dollar bill, which is worth about a penny almost now compared to what it was when I was a kid. Anyway, yeah, I remember buying colas out of vending machines. You had to put the bottle back for a nickel. Imagine that, guys. Wee. That's when I was a kid back in the early 60s. Yes, I still remember. La 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 la. Ukraine gains leverage but strikes on Russian refineries. They're going for Russia's economy. And they're also going for ammo dumps. They've hit some ammo dumps. So the war is blazing over there. And we may be getting drug into it. That is the bottom line. Not something I want. Germany issues sobering loss of life warning amid fears NATO going to war with Russia. And in particular, what they're figuring here is 1,000 per day going through their hospitals. They've got their hospitals planning for this. 1,000 wounded troops per day. That's a major conflict. That's still on the conventional side. Will it stay conventional? Not if either side fears its existence is threatened by these activities, then you can expect nuclear. Yikes, guys. Russia, Ukraine intelligence. The Kremlin cannot cut war spending without triggering a crisis. Because why? They have geared their entire economy to war. They are on a war economy. We've known this. And so what they're saying is they can't just shut it down. Is this why Putin didn't agree to the peace treaty with Trump? Because he knew his economy would crash and his people would have us hide? So are we basing our existential existence or on the Russian economy? Because Putin don't want to be strung up. I kind of think that's what's going on with Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. Because if he ever stops the war, they don't need him as prime minister. If he's not prime minister, there's a whole lot of crimes that they're ready to charge him for. Wow. Talking about the Israelis charging Netanyahu. He's got a lot of people over there that don't like him. So yikes, guys. So that's not taking a pro-anti-Israel stance. I'm just talking about one man. La 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 la. Putin says Russia will stick to nuclear arms limits for a year. Now, he's just thrown out in the midst of sending all those Migs into NATO airspace. He's kind of thrown out an olive branch to Trump. Maybe to divide us from NATO. I don't know. This has got to do with the intermediate range nuclear missiles. But reason we pulled out of that treaty was because Russia was already violating it. So anyway, so he's making some statements here. Oh no, this is the new start. Pardon me. Well, they've already got as many nukes as they could ever want. They got more nuclear missile. They got more nuclear warheads than anybody. What's actually mounted on missiles? It's probably on parity with us. Hey, we got a super chat from Sam Turner. Samuel Turner, good to see you in the house. China attacks in days with better weather. Well, they got a typhoon right now. I'll show you that. As soon as that typhoon clears out, the sea states clear, watch out. Because we're just days away from October when the sea states get right. And what I'm saying is this, all these Russian incursions may be just to distract us. So we're not focusing over there. But we're going to have a tough time dealing with Taiwan, with China. Y'all might remember, I pulled the article up 2 years ago. 2 years ago. This article is actually over 2 years old. And the data even predates that. And I've been talking to this data that we only then had about, at best, 2 weeks, maybe just 1 week supply of missiles and ammunition for a war with China, which would be totally inadequate, especially after we've seen how the Ukraine war has gone. And yet, what have we been doing? We are slow at producing this stuff. We don't produce it fast. We've been spinning it a lot faster, much faster than we can use it. Where? Playing whack-a-mole with the Houthis. I've been saying all along, we need to cut that crap out because we got no business there, and we're wasting our ammo we need for China. And then we defended Israel against Iranian attacks. More SM6 missiles, the big long-range, basically intercontinental ballistic interceptors, and the SM3s, both. We've been firing these things like, popcorn on a hot griddle. We've just been firing them off. And all our ammunitions are low. So we've got some trouble. We'll talk about maybe how the United States can deal with that. But the problem is it's not just what our military has over there, it's what they can do right here at home. I've been preaching this and telling you guys about it for years. It may be about to come to pass. I hope and pray not. But if you're not prepped, I don't know what you're doing. Sam Turner's a great prepper. He's mentioned his preps. He's taking it serious. If you don't think I'm not taking it serious, then you ask yourself, why did I bug out to my why not? Why am I bugging in at my bug out location? I moved. I moved. This is a great bug out location where I'm at. I moved. I'm taking this serious, and I hope you will be serious too. So pay attention, guys. And Sam Turner is a great champion for warning you guys about this stuff. And he's every time he makes a mention of this, when he puts a super chat in. So pay attention. He puts his money where his mouth is. He is prepped as much as possible. So I know everybody don't have tons of money to go running out chasing things. Money's tight. If you can just buy that extra bag of beans, extra bag of, let's say, kibbles to feed your nug. And you know what a nug is. You turn that word around if you're new to my channel and don't know my code words. So, and nugs get hungry. You got to feed them some kibble sometime. They go through real fast. So, if you know what I'm talking about. Alrighty, guys. So, uh-oh, this website might be a problem. Anyway, I'll tell you what it's all about. Well, okay, it popped up. This is obviously not a pro-American website. They're basically asking, should Venezuela transfer F-16s to Russia in exchange for Migs? Now, we know they've been buzzing our shields with F-16s, and they've also rolled their Migs out to show us, hey, we got both in Venezuela, as if these things would threaten us in our new F-35s and F-22s. But, we're not resupplying the logistics to keep those F-16s up. So they're probably putting them together with spit and tissue paper, and Russia would love to have them to get more insight into American technology. And I'm sure them and the Chinese both have already been crawling all over them, because just like the video I just put out earlier today, not that long ago, China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran are all deep in with Venezuela, to the point that if they launched an attack off the shore from Venezuela, you wouldn't know who did it. And that was the basis of Stacy Savicki's dream or vision. What a dream, it was a vision. You need to go back and watch those old videos, guys. We did a whole series on that. And just that a lady who milked cows for a living could see this, and she didn't even know what it was. And she called me when she saw one of my videos. I had to explain it to her. And it's uncanny, because it was the one thing I was worried about most, because we don't have our forces looking south. Our radars are all looking west and north. So this is our vulnerable, soft underbelly. And it could be exploited easily, too easily. And you think they don't know that already over there? They do. So, but anyway, this is part of the threat matrix we're facing. It's not pretty by any shape of the imagination, in my humble opinion. So, but the United States fired an ICBM close to Puerto Rico over the Atlantic just last night. Now, did they do this as a warning shot for anybody wanting to interfere with what we're doing in the Caribbean? Was it just a warning shot that, hey, we can fire these from anywhere? Or was this a warning shot for Russia? Who knows? But I'm sure the world took notice, because this is not where we conventionally launch our ICBMs. So you can bet your bottom penny, or your bottom goldback if you got one, that there's a message here. How good is that message? We know that without the EAMs and the verifications to the EAMs, nothing gets launched. Unfortunately, because they reconfigured the system. The safeguards keep us from launching. On the other hand, in Russia, with their dead hand switch, without comms, everything launches. Opposite approach, diametrically opposing philosophies on how to approach this. So, with all this stuff going on, it might help to understand, where's the fleet at? Well, look, Ford's over here in northern close to the Baltics between, okay, it's back on this page. Whoa, what's going on here? Trying to, okay, I was trying to scroll this page and it just wanted to jump on me. I want to show you, well, it's jumping too much. Can I click on this picture? Will it open? Well, the Ford's up here just east of England, basically. It's not to the Baltic yet. The Baltic's over here. That's our biggest aircraft carrier. And it's up there because of all the activity going on with NATO. You can bet that's why that puppy's up there. And we got an aircraft carrier off each coast to try to protect us as best it can. And we got the Iwo Jima down here close to Venezuela. And what's Greg? It's an amphibious assault ship. Why are they showing it down here close to Australia? I'll show you in a minute. Because it is also kind of like a Marine Corps aircraft carrier. It belongs to the Navy, but it's a helicopter aircraft carrier essentially. We got the Nimitz, which is supposed to be retired over here in the Mideast. And we got a ship over here next to Japan, the George Washington, and the USS Tripoli over a little closer to China. So we got our forces deployed across the entire world because we've got threats across the entire world. Now here's the Iwo Jima. There's a picture right there. You can see the helicopters on the deck. Yeah, it's an amphibious assault ship. That's also basically a helicopter aircraft carrier. So why would you put that down there in Venezuela? Maybe we're planning to go in. Maybe we're planning to go in. You tell me. Where is it going down there? Where's it going around the world? And like I just put out in that video, if you think this is not tied to China, you're probably not thinking, because it's on the surface a drug operation. But why are we not focusing more on Mexico and some of these other places? I think it's because of the bigger picture. Samuel Turner, China is the big dog. Exactly. Russia is a lot less lethal with conventional weapons. That is absolutely true. The only thing Russia's got an advantage on is nukes. And not by a long shot, because China's catching up real fast. And China actually has more missiles. Now we got North Korea with missiles, nuclear missiles, ICBMs. But Sam Turner's correct on that. And I would say we could back off from Europe and wouldn't have to worry about Russia right here in the United States. You, my friends down in Australia, New Zealand, have nothing to worry about with Russia. China is the biggest threat mankind has ever known. They will be a threat to Russia, and Russia knows that. We've driven the bear into the lap of the dragon. Tisk on us. And now we may be driving India over there. Whoa. Thailand is training with the Chinese. Holy smoke, guys. So if you're not paying attention, I don't know. But hey, double salute to Sam Turner. Thank you, sir. And what he's pointing out, pay attention to him. Pay attention. He's putting those in the room to get your attention so you will pay attention to the threat we face. He's been generous to me, and I appreciate it. But you read what he's writing. That's a message to all you in the chat room, guys. Anybody watching this video later. That's what that is. And so he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's trying to get your attention. So I double appreciate, one, for helping me, and two, for trying to help you guys to wake up to what we're facing. So thank you, Sam Turner. He's a patriot. All right, guys. So, hey, in Iran, the Iranians have basically kicked the IAEA out. That's the International Atomic Energy Association. They're the ones that go around and monitor weapons and compliance with treaties and all this stuff. And, this was predictable. They barely got back in there. They didn't get access to everything. They were chomping and crying about it. But then Iran figures it was them that gave the West, Israel and the United States, the intel to hit the places they hit. So, but I don't think those hits were anywhere near as effective as Trump said, because had they been, you'd had uranium hexafluoride out at Fordo. And instead of all these people walking around in their shorts and no special gear, and you'd have to have red gear and chemical gear too. And we're out there just putting up fences around the holes where the bunker busters went in. Little plastic fences and things like that, so people know where the hole was and trip into it. You know, they didn't tell people to stay out. Why? There's no uranium hexafluoride out there. If there was, they would all be on the ground doing the funky chicken, starting to push daisies. So Trump had people fired over that. You know, really push. He got mad when people counteracted what he said. But I'm an engineer. I'm telling you from an engineering standpoint what you'd have been expecting if what he said was true was true. Sorry, that's the way it is. You know, I got to look at it in analytics. And analytics says no uranium hexafluoride. No uranium hexafluoride says they didn't get the centrifuges. If they didn't get the centrifuges, you know they didn't get the pet pig, which is the enriched uranium. So there you go, my friends. Yeah, that's out there still somewhere, somewhere. And everybody pretty much knows now, even the Mossad. So they pretty much know that uranium is out there, still floating around, could be used. All right, I want to make sure I'm a human. Holy smoke. I just was on this page a minute ago, but now it wants to re-verify me. This is on the, hang on. This article is from June, I believe, of 2023, if I can recall correctly. Let's see what the date is. Somewhere in here. There it is. Oh, I'm wrong. July 2023. 13 July 2023. Talking about how we were precariously low, dangerously low on ammunition. This is just one of many, many, many articles circulating around back in that time. So we had a top Air Force general saying, and there were other people warning us the same thing. This is Air Force General James Heckler. And so he was warning from the standpoint of NATO. But the same is true, if not more true, from the standpoint of the nation who has a branch of the military called the Rocket Forces, which is China. You got to remember, China sets up what they call AAAD. It's an aerial denial. It's anti-access aerial denial. Anti-access aerial. They got so many missiles out there that they would just be able to cover this vast range off their coast for almost to Guam for some of the missiles. So how does our aircraft carriers get inside that when we don't have enough SM-6s and SM-3s to defend them? They got more missiles than we got defense missiles. It usually takes 2 defense missiles to hit back. Now, there was a good report on this by Steve Popper over the Popper Report. He did a real good video. He went through all the numbers, what we have, what we think we got, the production rates. I could do that too, but he did it, so I'll just tell you to go look at him on that. He did a very excellent. Some piece that nobody else is talking about. Well, maybe in the main meeting, but I've been talking about it here for years. I'm then the guy who's been critical. You know, he probably picked some of this here. He did a really good video on that, and that's all he talked about. He didn't go into you know, what's on the grocery store shelves and things like that. A lot of his followers are going to hear. No, he went straight into this problem and he hammered it and did an excellent job. So my hat's off to Steve for that. He's a good man, really good man. I like him. So anyway, all that aside, I'm going to check the chat room here in a little bit, guys. But first thing, I'm going to get through the news for our coffee club watchers in the morning who just want to get the news and then go off to work. So, guys, this is serious. This was 2 years ago. This is before we played whack-a-mole with the Houthis, before we spent so much ammo defending Israel. Oh, is this what I'll say? Ah, yes. China has sharp response after Trump announces price increase of popular U.S. visa, that's the H-1B, from $1,500 to $100,000. Now, he is also requiring U.S. firms that bring in foreign workers to pay them at least $150,000 a year. Woo, maybe I should go outside and get a citizenship in another country and come back in. But you don't have about $50,000 left after that. See, that's the problem. After you paid the $100,000, you get paid $150,000. So in part, this is to get hiring Americans. But maybe there should be an exemption for robotics. We talked about that a few days ago here. Well, we need to up our game in robotics. So maybe there should be some special exemptions, but you better control who comes in under that exemption. You don't want to bring a spy in. And we know from the National Intelligence Act of I believe, 2017, Article 7, in the Chinese Act there, that they require all Chinese citizens to answer to their intelligence community. They're all spies, whether they want to be or not, by their law. So there's some good things that come out of this. So, China is really really complaining about this. Why? Because, you're going to make it more expensive for us to send spies over there. How dare you make it more expensive for us to send our spies? Hmm. So I got to say that is a good move right there, because we want it to be expensive in that regard. That we don't want it here at all. All right, guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's like China. Oh, you want to cost us more for our spies? How dare you? China's always got a double standard of things, Holy guacamole. We can talk more about China in a little bit here. So, U.S. lawmakers on rare visit. Oh yeah, so there's been a bipartisan committee of lawmakers went to Beijing, went over there to kiss on Xi Jinping, kiss his ring, you know, and so China says, "Oh, this is an ice-breaking trip to mend tensions and relations. Oh, maybe we will sign some deals, maybe a treaty." Get her guard down. That's about it. I mean, look, what has China honored? Did they honor the treaty with Great Britain over Hong Kong? Did you give them autonomy for the 50 years? No. Have they honored the Law of the Sea Treaty, which they signed? No. They don't honor any treaty unless it serves them to do so, or any agreement. Look at all the technology they've stolen from U.S. companies, U.S. patents. They have stolen technology left and right. You come up with a concept here in this country. This guy's got this mousetrap company on YouTube. What is his name? I ordered some from him actually. But he says as soon as he comes out with something, he says it's like a day later. Chinese are selling it on Amazon. They copy it like immediately. Just about anything that they think's got any merit to it, and you may have heard Mr. Wonderful. What's his name? Of Shark Tank. Uh, he says that there's been just thousands and thousands of investors and inventors who in small companies have been put out of business because they invest all this time and effort to create an invention just to get it stolen by the Chinese. So he's the one that's talking about wanting tariffs to be set up to 400%. And I think he's right. Tariffs ought to be 400%. Maybe we just ought to quit trading with them. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. How do you deal with China? Remind me if I somehow start getting forgetful about it. That's the last thing I want to talk about here. And this is from General Flynn, I believe. Yeah. No, yeah. Well, look at those nice, sweet, loving faces. Ooh-wee. Yeah. Well, I talked about this report where the NCTC came out, National Counterterrorism Center, and warned us about Al Qaeda attacks right here in the United States. I also showed you guys where ISIS was calling for attacks across the West. So, but General Flynn just put out this video where he says, I've been talking about this since 2010, warning you guys this was building up. And there's this guy named John Guandolo. I don't know what kind of name that is. He says, friends, I and a couple others have been warning that both the U.S. Islamic movement and the U.S. Communist movement are this month coordinating when and how to launch massive kinetic combat operations in the United States. Additionally, they have known and put out that Al Qaeda, I don't know, it's hard to follow the language there, but they always said if China wanted to do something, they would probably have the sleeper cells timed for that time to create as much mayhem here at home as is possible. So, guys, I'm telling you what, you better do some serious praying. Hope and pray, but prep away. Prep like you never prepped before, whatever you can. But you better also prep your mind, your soul for what's coming. Now, look here. This Democrat booth gets kicked out of the Ohio fair because they had buttons about Trump, and things like that, just nasty, foul stuff like that. Of course, you think about these terrorists. You let all these people in this country, and then we've got. Oh, that's a different thing. Well, I thought I was going to pull up. It's a little bit out of sequence. This should have been earlier. Oh yeah, this is North Korea saying, "Hey, I got fond memory of Kim Jong Un. I got fond memories of Trump. Why don't you just accept my nukes and quit this? We got to denuclearize." Well, I'll be honest. North Korea is not going to denuclearize. They saw what happened under the Obama administration when Muammar Gaddafi denuclearized. He did it while W was president, but as soon as Hillary became Secretary of the State, she was laughing at what happened to him. And, some think that maybe Saddam Hussein actually had at least some chemical stuff and got rid of it. So he didn't want the evidence on it, got it out of the country. And we saw what happened to Saddam Hussein. So it's been like this over and over. Somebody does what they're supposed to do and gets, Muammar Gaddafi renounced it. He said, "Okay, I quit. I'm getting out of this." He said, "I'm out. Clean. I'm out." And he was trying to play straight, except he wasn't going along with the World Bank. He had his own dinar. He was trying to set up for Africa, some big canal system he was working on. It helped his country greatly. This country is now a heck hole ever since his demise in the whole region. So Muammar Gaddafi was not perfect, but he was changing his tune quite a bit. And yet look at the reward he got from it. So what kind of example do we set for other countries? You might also remember Madeleine Albright went to North Korea and got an agreement and a treaty saying that they weren't going to develop their nuclear weapons because we were going to give them some support. She came back bragging about it back when Slick Willie was president. Oh yeah, good old Slick Willie. So think about that. How well did that pan out? So I don't know about this thing with North Korea, but I know they're not going to denuclearize. That's a fact. How can you deal with them? Can you trust them? I don't know. Because little Kim is, he was raised to be a king, basically. He's a guy that basically fed his uncle the dogs that put him in power. So, you can't trust these people. You can't trust any of them. And maybe, Ronald Reagan had a good old saying for that. He said, trust, but verify. The main emphasis on the verification. Of course, what happened under Ronald Reagan, the wall fell because he put on the pressure. Ronnie Reagan, that was one of my favorite presidents ever. In fact, I think he was my favorite president. So it's still to this day. Trump might be heading that direction, but I got issues with Epstein and a few other things. So I don't know. I like Ronnie Reagan, but that's me. What a guy to start a program, Star Wars program, Ronnie Reagan. But anyway, he made a lot of good statements against communism. A lot of things that our young people in this world need to listen to. Unlike Bill Clinton, I did not have sex with that woman. It was my cigar. Anyway, all that aside. So I don't know what's going to happen there. North Korea, darn well they got those nukes to keep the United States, to get us out of South Korea, basically. or to put a checkmate on us. And yeah, they could reach here. Absolutely. That's why we have our missile defense system, our ground-based interceptors at Fort Greely, Alaska, which was my last duty station in the Army. That's where most of them are. And we got a couple down in Vandenberg Air Force Base. We got about 40 of them. Now, there's about 50 warheads mounted on nuclear missiles or ICBMs, excuse me, nuclear warheads mounted on ICBMs that North Korea has. And we only have about a 50% success rate with intercepts. We don't have enough. Now, if you had enough SM6s to throw in, on the SM3s, pardon, to throw in the mix, we'd be good. I was earlier referring to SM6s, I meant SM3s. If you had enough of them to throw in the mix, the problem is we don't have enough of them to even cover a war with China. We are short on munitions. So we got to thread this very, very carefully. Now, Trump, I think, knows how to talk to Kim, but that's about it. Now, look here. We got earthquakes like crazy going off. They've had another big earthquake in the Chemkech Peninsula in Russia, 7.8. The first big one they had back several weeks ago actually wiped out their big submarine base there. And you had people calling for basically NATO and the United States to attack Russia then, because that was just right at the right after the Ukrainians took out so many of their aircraft. Because suddenly their forces were a lot weaker than they had been, but they were still very substantial and they got the dead hand switch. So that's kind of nonsense. Nonsense. We need to get the heck out of this whole NATO thing. I don't know. Somebody, if you get Trump's ear, write him a letter. It's not, Eastern Ukraine, the piece of Eastern Ukraine that don't want to be part of Ukraine. Why are we risking turning the whole world into a cinder over that? Jeez. Anyway, and San Francisco 4.3. The Bay Area people fell in the shake. I'll be shaking anyway. So, and this is what might keep China off our backs for a little bit. The most powerful storm on Earth this year lashes the Philippines, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and southern China. I talked to a guy in the Philippines today, and he says they were having power outages and having to deal with the storm. But if you look at it, there it is. It's hitting the northern Philippines, coming into southern Taiwan, and aimed basically right at Hong Kong. So that might spoil China's plans for a few days. Let's hope it just goes up the Strait of Taiwan on the Chinese side and visit some of their ports that they're building for their assault ships on Taiwan. Guys, prayers are powerful. It might could slow them down even more if this thing took the right path and swerved up a little bit after it crosses Taiwan. I don't see it take too much toll on the Philippines or Taiwan. And by the way, the area where it's at right there on the south eastern quadrant of it is right here is where we're putting military bases right here. So I've talked about that in the past. So bear in mind for what? For war with China. Uh-oh, other stuff popping up. I ain't gonna stay there. Ain't no way. Let's go to another place here. And we've been talking about robotics and how sophisticated robotics could get. And I warned you guys about the prospects one day that we could have a robot. And I got them now the size of wasp. Now they're talking about these tiny lenses that are smaller than the hair. Lenses are one of the things that pace the size of how big you can build a robot. Now they're talking about really tiny lenses. If anybody ever read Michael Crichton's The Swarm, I believe he went into big time talking about getting lenses real small so they could have these ittle bitty nanobots do crazy stuff that he had written up in that novel. Oh yeah, we've been perfecting swarm technology for robots. So we're almost at what the level Michael Crichton was writing about. But this is a frightening level of technology, guys, quite frankly. So we'll talk about China here after I get through the weather here, space weather at least. I'm not going through all the weather. But you can see off San Francisco, they had two earthquakes, one on top of the other there. Got a 5.4 down here off of Mexico. So the ring of fire as usually is lit up. Here, we got one up in Canada. Close to you, New Days. How you doing, New Days? I see you in the chat room there. And Well, the Dominican Republic had one. The Puerto Ricans, I guess they're tired. They ain't dancing tonight. Oh, let me swing this back the other way if I can. I got too much stuff up. Whoa, ain't going where I want. Well, we can always see some earthquakes around Indonesia, China, Philippines. Well, they have one in the Philippines up close to where the hurricane's at right now. Four of them. 4.6 over there. Of course, these are kind of small for these. Are 4.6 in the Philippines. Oh, look down here. South America is real active. 5.1 off Peru. Well, they just had one right here. 4.2 in Chile. Yeah, I'm down here in the South, almost the Arctic Ocean. Antarctic Ocean, that is. South Sandwich Islands region, 5.1. Okay, space weather. We're not done with this stuff here. I mean, look at asteroids, all the ones coming in between the Earth and Moon have passed us that we know of. There's always something new coming up because we always find these about after they pass us. We do have one that's passing us 1/10 of the distance between the Earth and the Moon on the other side of the Moon. So it will miss by a long shot. And it's only 7 meters in diameter. It would burn up in the atmosphere anyway, most likely. So nothing that we know of that's a direct threat. But that's a long list of this month of close flower bars. The sun, hang on. Oh, the wrong buttons here. The sun is still active. Hang on, guys. You can see some sunspots, but nothing ginormous. That guy's by itself. It's when you got a positive and negative magnetic polarity. You got to worry most about the sunspots. But there's a CME heading for interstellar comet 3I Atlas. Hey, you aliens. See what you get? Don't mess with us. Yeah, you better watch out, aliens. Yeah, that's a natural object, but a strange one. At least I think it's a natural object. Now, if it gets on the other side of the sun, we don't see it and don't reemerge when we expect it, then you better watch out. That means it slowed down when we wasn't watching. That would be scary. I don't expect to see that happen. But if it did, you better have your eyes wide open in a hurry. Yikes, guys. Out here, I watched the eclipse from a satellite. Ain't that something? All right, I'm going to stop the share. We're going to talk a bit more about China. China is a great threat because we let our guard down. It was none other than Bill Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman. He gave them most favored trading status, even though they were mistreating the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, the Inner Mongolians, and now the Falun Gong, Christians in their country. By the way, there's a lot of Christians in China, but China rewrote their Bible. And there's something about changing the words, Bible, changing times and words. I don't know. But red dragon coming up out of the sea, and for the Hebrew and the Jews, actually at the time is the Jewish people, when they talk about the sea it's a term they use to refer to the Gentile world. So there's a red dragon coming out of part of the world that wasn't them. That's basically what they meant when they said it's coming up out of the sea. Now, what country identifies as a red dragon? Yeah, the biggest threat we've ever seen. Does it mean that they get to pull everything off they want to? I don't think so, but they're going to potentially make a lot of mayhem. There's the prophecies and revelations about a war that takes out about a quarter of the world's people, and that army marches across the Euphrates River when it dries up. Yo, Prime Minister of India, Modi, you might be Hindu, but I highly encourage you to go look in the book of Revelations. Where else are they going to get that many people to be biting the dust? And you're being lured over to China. Better be thinking, Modi. You better open your eyes. because you might be in for a surprise. What I just said, you make a deal with the Chinese, you're making a deal with the devil, apparently, because no, I mean the Chinese Communist Party, not the people. The people over there don't want this either. There's a lot of great people in China, a lot of great people. But they got this thing, they got this boot on their neck. China puts more investment into internal security than they do their military, which is vast. Why? Because they fear their own people the most. And rightly so. Who wants a boot on their neck? American college students that don't know any better think that's the greatest thing in the world because that's what they learn in college. Wow. Yeah. So, well, your day's pretty active in the chat room tonight. Arnold, Jesse, I'll come and look here in a minute. So, think about this. How do you deal with somebody when you don't have the ammo to deal with them? There is a way. We need India on our side to help pull this off. At least it would greatly help if we did. But the real way is to just shut China's trade down. Basically, a blockade at sea. Now, that is an act of war, but you can do it from a distance. If they launch on Taiwan, I don't know how much we can go straight in there. We might get close, but we're going to get a lot of losses. China come out with and said, oh, they can take out all our aircraft carriers in about 30 minutes because of the satellites they have. And Hexa actually said the same. So, everybody goes, oh, we got more tonnage because our ships are bigger. Well, that's just bigger targets. There's an advantage in modern warfare to having lots more smaller targets than maybe big ones for certain types of conflict. So it's something to think about. Something that we need to be thinking very much about. We just keep building bigger and bigger targets like the USS Gerald Ford, biggest aircraft carrier ever. I'm sure it's got a lot of capabilities, the electromagnetic catapult that toss planes off without having to use the steam, which can recharge instantly. Not to build up steam pressure for the next launch, and they put a lot of aircraft with it. But the Chinese also got an electronic airport on a new Fujian aircraft carrier. So, guys, we are in for the times like we have never even read about or heard of. It's like the war between the states and World War II and World War I and every war we've ever had and the Great Depression all rolled up in one times 10. It's not saying it'll absolutely happen, but it's looking like they're making plans for it. And this is all the more reason to call them out when they're about to do something like these groups here in America. By calling them out, you might make them pause. Oh, they're expecting us. We can't do it now. They're expecting us. Have your eyes open when you pass our substation. You see something, call the cops or whoever, if they're still around to be called. Yeah. But you got to be able to defend yourself and your family. You got to be able to feed yourself and your family. And water is the most critical thing. I did a video back a long time ago on this channel showing you like many different methods of purifying and sanitizing water. It's two different things a lot of people don't talk about. So you need to go back and find that video. It's not gotten near the views it should have gotten. Well, maybe because I was standing out in the middle of a field in my overalls talking this stuff, and somebody in the background is firing a machine gun. Bam, 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 bam. That just shows you Alabama takes that kind of stuff seriously. That's where I was at the time. So all things to pay attention to. If we're really smart, we can't take on China like we fought every other war with just head-to-head combat. We're going to have to use asymmetrical means. That's what they're already using against us, Sun Tzu style. Well, I hope the guy that wrote the Art of the Deal, based on the Sun Tzu Art of War, understands that, and I think he does. So what's he got up his sleeve? Let's hope we're being extremely smart about this, because we've got to be. Palantir might give us some edge, but I'm not sure it's enough. Because when you don't have enough munitions, you better figure out a way to get your enemy to waste a whole lot of them some other way. They done figured that out for us, Houthis, which were under the control of Iran, which is under the control of China. Oh, yeah. The Houthis. And then Russia, and now is on Xi Jinping's leash. So the dragon has a lot of people towing to it now. We don't want to be there because it could be the end of our existence. Look how they treat the people in their own country. You think they're going to treat you any better? Some people better think they will. No, they won't. Here's a little funny MO that most of the people supporting totalitarian change of ways here forget to look at from history. Usually when these guys get to power, their revolutions, they usually off the people that put them there. Why? Because they're revolutionaries. They want a stable system. They don't want those people in the country anymore, even though they put them in power. And so the guys over here that are agitating for that kind of stuff, they don't even know what they're doing. They got no clue. No clue. But so the bottom line is you guys have got to be situationally aware outside now. You got ISIS, Al Qaeda, you got sleeper cells from China, God knows, Iran, maybe, Hamas, drug cartels, which are basically at the behest of China. It's not pretty. Don't mean it's got to happen. Like I said, I do believe in the power of prayer. But right now, it's accelerating. We're picking up. We're running toward this just as hard as we can go, and it seems to be going faster every day. It's accelerating. If you can't see that in the headlines and the news that this is accelerating, you're not paying attention. It's accelerating fast. This is, and that may be a whole lot behind all this division we got here at home. TikTok, all these things behind China. Oh, yeah, all their Confucius schools, points, whatever. Whew. All right, that's kind of the bottom line on some of that stuff. But I really want to let you guys know that once that hurricane's passed, sea states are calm. If it hasn't done too much damage to Chinese ports, and the way it's going right now, it's likely not to. Out. Look out. Look out, guys. That's all I can say. I am not saying it will happen this time, but why else are all these other tensions ratcheting up right now? Why else? Why is Trump so adamant to get Chinese out of Panama Canal and Venezuela? He probably knows more than he's telling. There's some things you just can't tell. It's classified for good reason. And sometimes you don't want the enemy to know what you know. So sometimes, loose lips sink ships. So we are in for some rough seas right in front of us. Just pray, prep and pray. Hopefully we can pray it away. But you better be banking on banking your seeds and preps. That's what I got to say on it. And hey, that'd be good. All this stuff don't happen. That stuff would be good for you down the road. It's an investment. Daniel, how you doing? The art of the deal. The art of the war deal. Ha ha. Yes. Yes, Daniel. Oh, space buddy in here. China seems pretty overthrow proof. Yeah, that's why they got such an apparatus with their deep state. That's why they got these surveillance cameras everywhere, their internal security forces, their social points, and the CCP is rather large. So they use that to control their people. People don't like it. I think they could overthrow them, but they got to be united to do it. And it won't be easy, but it would be to their benefit if they did. I'm trying not to make a prediction, Rodney. I predict mayhem, some form. I'm trying to stay out of the, I'm not a prophet, although I've had a lady on here several times that had a very prophetic vision, and we may be close to that being fulfilled. So I tell you guys to watch out for that. So, Cali Prepper, pig farmer. Hey, pig farmer, that's good to see. We used to raise pigs. And we got Kim Possible in the house. So that tells me I need to go check my PayPal. Ding, 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 ding. Hang on. I don't remember my new password. I'll check my email. Can't type. I'll check my email. Get it wrong too many times, it'll mess me. I just changed it. Let's see. Check my email. I don't think I'll get it there. Hang on, guys. Ding, 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 ding. Oh. Yes, indeedy. We got a super chat via donation through my website from Kim Possible, $20. Salute to you. Thank you very much. Most appreciative. All righty, folks. So I saw she was in the room. I knew I needed to check that. Let me see if I can pull up the chat. What browser did it go to this time on my computer? There it is. All right, let me go through it from here. Scott Kitchell, definitely conflict all around the world. Yeah, I mean, when have we ever had the West just talking about just off the hand shooting down Russian planes? Several nations saying they would do it. They will do it. Y'all. Hey, morning, new days. Still not for me, but I got to crawl in the second because I got to get up early, as I have to all too often these days. Why is Russia flying MiG-31s over Estonian airspace? Well, Jason, they could be testing NATO, but then again, they could be running diversions for China. Like I mentioned, there was some private confabs between Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong Un, and Xi Jinping when they had the 80th celebration of the defeat of Japan, which they failed to mention was thanks to the United States. So there is discussions from others that they basically agreed to cause diversions, especially if China was moving in. So this just could be preliminaries, or maybe Russia's testing how far they can push it. It just seems odd that Russia would actually be chomping at the bit to fight with NATO while they still got their hands full with Ukraine. Maybe they're hoping we'll back off of supporting Ukraine. I think it's a different picture because I have a hard time seeing that. Anyway, yeah, gold is really up, Jason. All right, thank you, Arnold, for welcoming people in the house. New Day sharing links, appreciate that. Oh yeah, my link to or my deal with Lehman Brothers. They delisted me as a what do you call it, affiliate marketer, because nobody bought anything from them through my channel, which really surprises me. So we don't have Lehman Brothers anymore. All right, let's see. GM, Ford, Dodge need to stop making cars and retool for drones. And that's what we did in World War II. Really, yeah, drones and missiles, both. That's what we need to do. We need a major retooling real fast. Oh yeah, I've been meaning to talk about General Color. Guys, 73 from KK6 VDR. Nice call sign. And we got Jesse Mills, my neighbor up down the road, but up the hill. Potatoes. Potatoes are good to have. Go back set, y'all. There you go, Daniel. Coming in late from Maui. Hey, Calamity Chain. All right. Oh, yeah. For the morning, guys, the news part's over. We're just going through the chat real fast now. I usually try to announce that, but I think it's pretty obvious by now. We, the people down here, know that China is a bigger threat right next to the far left government we got. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So as bad as threat as China, is the guys inside the Beltway here are our biggest threat. Yeah. Yeah. Government corrupts and power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And by the way, please support the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act that to prohibit homeowners associations and other entities from enforcing restrictions that prevent or impair ham antennas. The ham operators provide a service for our society in times of emergencies. Homeowners associations, they don't give a rat's say about anything other than having everything look crispy clean according to their ideology so somebody can make a sale on the house. So, I really wouldn't even want to live where they had an HOA. There's no HOA here. I am the HOA, and anything goes. War III was the Cold War. War IV, yeah, that's one way to look at it, Daniel. A lot of people do count it that way. So I was a valiant Cold Warrior. I was in the army. So, even there's even there's trackers say. China so closely right now. Cuba. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We ran the Russians out, but we let the Chinese in. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? The Saxon Riverstone. Hey, that's a good name. Wave American citizens, workers, yet a needed subsidy. Still have relatives there. They tell me how much movement are in the bases. Ooh, tell us more, Cuban Nurse Prepper, because I live nearby. So the Chinese bases are really active right now. That would be an interesting point of intel. Yeah. Let's pray that none. What? Let's pray none of thee have syphilis. None of who? The troops coming back. Oh, Anton says the rapture is today. What's the Bible say? No man knows the day or the hour. So, but people fight. People sold their cars, quit their jobs. Interesting. That's a whole other story. The rapture, don't hold your breath. Exactly, New Days. Don't hold your breath. If you don't play ball with the World Bank, they will throw your country away. That's what they did to Libya, and the country's been devastated ever since. Ever since. It's just a rat hole over there. A warlord's running the place. Sam, the rapture already happened. You missed it. I was at a space conference with a buddy of mine, Greg Rucker. He's a very religious guy, deeply religious. He was on my policy committee. And when we started having a National Space Society policy committee, we'd always have a prayer, benediction, first thing. And Greg would say the benediction. And we were at this conference, and we walked up to this couch. And on the back of the couch was a hat, and there was a shirt on the back, and a pair of pants on the seat, and shoes on the floor. And there was two sets of these. I looked over at Greg. I says, Greg, look, we done missed the rapture's done happened, and we missed it. Oh, he wasn't a happy camper when I said, he said, don't kid about that. I would expect to see more things before that happens. I would expect to see more definite signs of who the Antichrist is or something. There's certain things I would be expecting to see just before that happens. And frankly, I'm a post-tribulation believer in that kind of stuff. I don't believe personally in pre-trib. That pre-trib whole philosophy started in the 1830s with Darby, who came over from England spreading that. And there's words that he had some connections with the Rothschilds. So maybe the whole intent is to distract us. So you think, oh, we're not there yet. I don't know. Hey, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not going to state it. I'm just telling you where I lean. Not to state it's absolutely this way or that way. The RAM 161 Standard Missile 3. That's it. I was saying the SM6. I meant the SM3. You got it right, Daniel. Sometimes I catch myself. I'll get on a tear and I get my wires crossed, or I get my crosses wired or something. Qantas Airlines have canceled all flights to those Asian countries. Ooh, Rodney, maybe they know something. AI, Dawn of Star Wars. Too many tabs has a dual meaning for baby boomers. Uh-oh. Rodney, think more than our robot Terminator, Skynet. Yeah, maybe those were documentaries for the future. Auto spell it wipes me out all the time, Arnold. Hey, Marie, music, Donovan, forgive my sparky ways, fellers. Done. Plain reality. Don't forget NAFTA to the old slick woolly. Oh, yeah. You know, these guys were in such a hurry to give our country away, they couldn't stand it. Why? Because we're the stalwart of freedom. They want to bring us down so they can set their global government all around. Weather's number one hazard all nations, the flash flooding event. They've been having some interesting flooding in China. Maybe they'll get more, especially this hurricane. Each superpower has their designs on territory takeovers. Maybe a three-way peaceful swap will happen involving Taiwan, Crimea, Greenland. Well, you know, my buddy David Pine, I've had him on here several times. I'm not recently. I need to get him back on the channel. I'm not any reason why. I need to return to that. But he was in favor of having spheres of influence for Russia, China, and the United States. You don't cross my sphere, I won't cross yours. And that would have us backing out of some areas. And there are those that think that's a path to peace. It might be, but not if China is about to launch an attack next week. It's too late if that's the case. And it could be because they're not going to tell you when they're going to attack. They'll tell you, oh, 2027. Well, they want you getting ready for that, but they would probably be ready earlier. And from the looks of things, with their shipbuilding, with their landing ships, with the ports they put in, airports and seaports right there across the strait from Taiwan, it looks like they're ready. As ready as they can be. The Art of the War by Sun Tzu. Yep. Jack Hodges. China has the biggest navy in the world, twice the ships the U.S. has. Oh, yeah. Thing is, they can build it much faster than we can. And so somebody, oh, yeah, we got more displacement. So what? We just got bigger targets, bigger aircraft carriers. It's not really an advantage, as some people try to make it sound to be. So when I was at Fort Greely, Alaska, we had this General Kohler came visit. I got to cut this short here in a minute. And he described why we needed to keep manufacturing in the United States. This is before Slick Willie came along and give it all away. He wouldn't have fathomed what came to pass when he was talking to us. He talked about why it was so important to keep our manufacturing base up to snuff, because how we needed that for logistics to support our military. And he also talked about a lot of the choke points around the world, strategic choke points. And he went in great detail about it. And he was just talking to us troops, basically, a two-star general. And it was almost like being in a class at a war college, because he went in a lot of detail about it. And it's like the whole government just didn't listen, didn't pay attention, forgot, or maybe it's on purpose. course, under Slick Woolley, they did send some computers to China, which were dual use, which meant they could have used them for the military. And of course, some of the people on the government side saw that and they invented the ITAR, International Trade and Trafficking in Arms Regulations. Anyway, yeah, we let a lot of this happen, unfortunately, and now we're paying the piper. Oh, I hadn't seen VidCom in a while. Where's he at? Kilowatt, kiloma, TT. Kilowatt, kiloma. I guess that's what KWATT, kilowatt. Well, there's VidCom. How you doing? Miss T. I can't wait till the soccer season is over. All right. Holy Spirit, air powerful. Does he believe on Jesus? We've been talking about him. Revelation says it can all be avoided if we accept God. Well, think about the prophecy with Jonah and the whale. Things can change, all according to what's in the hearts of the people. That's why I said the first thing you need to do is pray. But you better prep. Of course, I usually say prep and pray. That's just the way it rhymes and alliterates. But you better be doing both. You need to get centered with your maker and with yourself and build your bonds with your friends and family while you can. Tell them you love them. You don't have time for anything else. If you don't, and things go down, you will regret not having done it. Space Girl. Hey, Halo Space Girl, how you doing? That sold us out to China. Then many senators took on Chinese spies as employees. Yep. And what was her name? Feinstein had Chinese chairman over to her house dancing. Yikes, guys. As we saw Governor Newsom roll out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. The left coast is just that, guys. So you got some lizard rain today. Hey, Jesse, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, I posted on Facebook. It was the rain formation for a little bit looked like a giant green lizard on my radar. So I like to have a little fun. I post some fun things just for the heck of it. Guys, one of the ways you stay center is you look for humor wherever you can and try to appreciate it and embrace it because we live in dangerous times. So finding something humorous can be a way to maintain your sanity. And don't let these things get to you to the point that they drive you insane. Don't let it do that. So I say you got to stay centered. And just in the end, we win, but we may have a lot of losses along the way. Hopefully, we can rebuild another better world on the other side if it all comes crashing down. If we're lucky, it won't all come crashing down. Maybe it'll turn for a better world. There are forces trying to do that in this country. Right now, we are in a spiritual war above all. Very much. That's why the praying counts. So, Mr. T, breathe faith. Okay. Audion Godin says, howdy, Mr. Greg. Stayed up late enough to catch you live. Been a while. I can't sleep tonight. Well, you just needed to know what I'm putting out here. Go back and catch my video on the rerun, whatever part you missed. All righty, folks. So we've been on here a while. How long have we been in here? Tell me on this little app here. Oh. There it is, 91 minutes, hour and a half. Have been able to get to sleep tonight, tossing and turning for hours. Yeah, I'm worn out. I got to hit the hay. Because I rolled it. Oh, boy. I'm going to get about 4 hours sleep tonight if I'm lucky. I won't get that even. It's been several nights when I've done lives. I've been getting 3 hours sleep because I got to get up, guys. And I got some serious work to do tomorrow. Ooh-wee. So I got to make some coffee. Now I'm on solar here. I thought this morning we weren't going to see any sun.
And so I had a little coffee from yesterday, and I made a cold press coffee. It's the first time ever. I got one of those French cold presses. I knew here with that sun, I still got to have caffeine. I'll take my sleep lying down. I take it in a cup. So, with all that said, I made some of that cold press coffee. But as soon as the sun came out later this evening, I brewed some coffee because the cold press wasn't ready yet, and I needed some coffee. So I got plenty of coffee for tomorrow, and I'm really going to need it. we uh, anyway, hey, Norway, very good. So I've never seen anything like this in my life, guys. Where we're at in the world today. At least in the '60s, in the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were pretty much together inside this country, and we're not. We didn't have in no war that we fought that we had so much foreign influence at home, and we faced sleeper cells or anything like what we face today. We didn't have, yeah, we're just there's so many issues. We can pull out of it maybe if we pray that things turn around, but it's not looking pretty. You better get to prepping. That's all I got to say. Get to prepping because China could be launching an attack in a matter of days, just like Sam Turner said. It could all be just a matter of days. 1st of October or a few days after. Do you have all your stuff ready? Is your gear prepared? Have you practiced any of your skills? If you're relying on going to YouTube to know how to do things, and the grid goes down, it's too late. You better be learning right now. Get you some books. Buy seeds. Buy heirloom seeds. Go to True Leaf Market. Eden Brothers. Get them while the getting's good. You may only have a very limited time. All right, my friends. With that, I'm going to say thank you, Sam Turner. Thank you, Kim Possible. Both of you have been great super chatters tonight. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate the message that you've been sharing with my channel here tonight. A message to get ready. I want to thank mods for keeping the channel clean. And I want to thank everyone for watching. So with that, I'm going to say again, thank you for watching. To all, a good night, good day, wherever you are. And in honor of Granny Lana, what follows that is ho, ho, ho.